Okay class, here's a video on lesson 2, polynomial long division. I'm going to give you an example of numerical long division to ground this in some past learning, and then I'm going to give you 2 examples of division with polynomials. So I'm going to do questions 2, and I'm going to do questions 7, and I'm going to do question 8. And actually while I'm here, I'm just going to copy down question 7 because I don't have it pre-written on my other page. So that one's going to be 5p squared plus 51p plus 10, all divided by p plus 10. I'm just going to grab that and bring that over to my loose leaf. Okay. All right, let's start with a number. Question number 2. What we ask ourselves is we say, how many times does 17 go into 37? Well, 17 goes into 37 twice. As soon as we put the 2 up here, we then multiply down. 2 times 17 is 34. We subtract. 37 minus 34 is 3. And we bring down the next term, which is 5. Now that's one cycle. We're going to do the same thing again. But now, how many times does 17 go into 35? 17 goes into 35 twice. Then we multiply over. 2 times 17 is 34. I'll get rid of these extra lines. 2 times 17 is 34. We're then going to subtract. 35 minus 34 is 1. And then I'm going to bring down the next term, the 7. Now we do it one more time. How many times does 17 go into 17? 17 goes into 17 once. We then multiply over. 1 times 17 is 17. And we subtract. And we get a 0 remainder. And there's nothing else left to bring down. So we're done. Now you could watch that over again if you're having trouble with that, or you could even slow down the playback speed if you're on YouTube. You should have that option under the little gear icon. Now let's do a polynomial. 7. Clean this up, I don't like that angled bracket. Okay. Now what we're doing here is we're asking ourselves the same question, but we're just focusing on the first terms. So how many times does p go into 5p squared? Well, I'm going to tell you that's 5p. If you have trouble with understanding that idea, here's why. What we want is we want to be able to multiply to check if the division works. So 5p times p is 5p squared. Look at these. They're the same thing. They're the same. So since they're the same, in our next move they'll be able to cancel out. That's how we know we put the correct thing up top. So 5p times p is 5p squared. We also have to multiply that onto the 10. So times positive 10 gets me positive 50p. Now I always do this, parentheses and then subtract. 5p squared and 5p squared cancel out. That's how I know that I'm right on the previous step. And now 51p minus 50p is 1p. And I can bring down my next term, which is positive 10. That was one cycle. Now all we have to do is one more. P goes into 1p. 1 time plus 1. Okay, we distribute that over. 1 times p is 1p, and 1 times 10 is positive 10. Parentheses and subtract, and they're both going to cross out and give me a nice remainder of 0. So my answer is 5p plus 1. And that's the easier one. If you can master those with a trinomial being divided by a binomial, that setup, which is the beginning of the whole sheet, you're good. If you want an example that looks more like your homework questions, let's do question number 8 together. We did this one in class, but just a little reminder in case you're not sure what you did, where you went with it. Let's start fresh. And get rid of all the scratch work so we can start anew. All right, this is question number 8. we say, how many times does x go into 2x to the fourth? Now remember that we want whatever I put here to be able to multiply by x to give us 2x to the fourth. We want to get the same thing back. So 2 times x would get us 2x. So I can put this together piece by piece. 2 times x is 2x. Well, what about the fourth? So where are all those extra x's going to come from? I've got 1x here. I need 4 x's. Where are those other 3 x's going to come from? They're going to come from right here. So let's see. 2x cubed times x is 2x to the fourth. And 2x cubed times negative 3 is going to be negative 6x cubed. Parentheses and subtract. Now I'm going to speed it up a little bit just because this is a long question. If you have any issues with this, you can always back up and watch it again, or you can slow down the playback speed. These cross out. That's how we know that our last move was correct. Minus a minus is the same thing as plus. So negative 2 plus 6 is going to be 4x cubed. I'm going to bring down the next term, negative 17x squared, and then we start the process over again. X goes into 4x cubed, a positive 4x squared times. I know that because 4x squared times x is 4x cubed. Then 4x squared times negative 3 is going to be negative 12x squared. Parentheses and subtract. The 4x cubes cross out. That's how I know that I was right in the previous step. Now, minus a minus is plus. So negative 17 plus 12 is going to be negative 5x squared. And then we bring down the next term, the plus 7x. Same process again. X goes into negative 5x squared, negative 5x times. Why? Because negative 5x times x is negative 5x squared. Negative 5x times negative 3 is going to be positive 15x. We'll parentheses and subtract teal for my last color. These cross out. That's how I know that I was right in the previous step. 7x minus 15x is going to be negative 8x. And then I'm going to bring down the plus 24. Last little cycle here. X goes into negative 8x. Negative 8 times. Negative 8 times x is negative 8x, and negative 8 times negative 3 is going to be a positive 24. Parentheses and subtract, and these both cross out, and I get 0 remainder. So this up here would be my answer then. You're good as gold. Okay, if you have any more issues with that, please feel free to see me in office hours. You know I'm there pretty much every day, 3:20 to 4. See you then.